Now, I know that Game Week 32 has only just started, but there's already plenty to talk about. And if you know me, you know that doesn't stop me making some FPL content. So in this video, we're going to go through players to buy and avoid ahead of double Game Week 33. All right, we've got to start the video then by talking about the fixtures. And I know I sound like a really broken record when I talk about the fixtures, right? But they're so important to making your transfer decisions. I'm not going to spend too long on here, but what we've got is a double game week in 33 for 4 teams. So we've got Crystal Palace, Man City, Aston Villa and Arsenal all doubling. Sorry about the formatting. We've got game week 31 and 32 chucked in there. I think it's also important to know what's going on this week as well, because you might want to pause the video on this grid to see what the fixtures look like, players you want to move off of in 32 who maybe, Newcastle players who have a single in 33, maybe you want to move off them, stuff like that. So it's relevant. The beauty, I guess, if you've got your free hit left, is you can pick doublers in 33, free hit 34 to protect yourself when they blank, and then you've got them again in game week 35. And also an additional bit of context, there is one team in particular, or 2 teams actually, 3 teams by the looks of it to be fair, that could also double in game week 36, depending on who gets to the later stage of the FA Cup. So, and what Ben Crennan has done here on this fixture grid, fantastically, is added a likelihood of them qualifying for that stage in the FA Cup with the likelihood of them getting a double game week, if that makes sense. So we've got potentially 3 teams who could double twice again. So Crystal Palace, while they could have 3 double game weeks, they've got a 42% chance of doubling in 36. Man City have a 64% chance. And Aston Villa have a 48% chance. You can see Bournemouth have a 64 and 36 as well. Tottenham have a 48. Wolves have a 32. Plenty of teams there with potential to double in 36 as well. All right, I'm going to start off by talking about assets from the double game week teams that I might want to pick in my FPL team, right? And Man City come first because I don't mean this in an offensive way to Man City fans. But their team is, in terms of FPL assets, is a bit dry. Like beyond Marmoush and Guardiola. Now, I know it's boring to say this, but I can't say with any level of confidence that there's anyone else in that Man City team that I'd actually want to pick going forwards. It just isn't. Obviously, it was a crazy game for Man City against Crystal Palace, but none of that may change my mind on who is pickable at the moment in FPL, because regardless of how they did, the minutes are still really uncertain. The only 2 that I think I can pretty much bank on to start both games of the double are Marmoush and Guardiola. Other than those 2, I think it's a complete minefield as to who you pick. I've put a meh section in there for players that you could pick, but again, you cannot guarantee their minutes. I'd say Savinho is in there. He's always looks good when he does play for Man City, but that's the question. Will he play and how many minutes will he get? And then Ederson, he's going to play every game, no doubt about it, but he never really makes saves. And obviously Man City are pretty poor defensively, so he never really gets amongst many points apart from the odd assist, which he may or may not have got in game week 32. See, I know it sounds boring to only really mention 2 buyable players from Man City, but genuinely, outside of Marmoush and Guardiola, I'd feel dishonest to you if I was to say I'd genuinely recommend anyone else. I think Savinho and Ederson are up there as well. It could be another couple of defenders who probably play both games, but I just wouldn't back them defensively enough, or any of the other defenders' minutes to truly pick them. But yeah, let me know in the comments there if there are any other Man City players you like. Next up, we've got Aston Villa, and there's a caveat with them as well. Now, I think the 3 pickable options that I've mentioned here, they probably get good minutes during the double, right? But the thing to watch out for with Aston Villa is the Champions League. And here's what we've got. So I've pulled up their fixtures that they've got coming up, right? Just to give you an idea of how they might tackle the double game week, right? So they're 3-1 down. Obviously lost 3-1 against PSG in the Champions League week just gone. They're playing them at home at Villa Park. We know what the team was in the reverse fixture. The likes of Rodgers started. Asensio didn't, for example. So and that's the team against they've got PSG on Tuesday. And then they play Newcastle on Saturday. And then they play Man City away on Tuesday. Now, what's, I guess, the one good thing, the one player you can kind of hang your hat on, I suppose, is Morgan Rodgers. He started the game in the Champions League against Man City. Didn't play the full 90, in the game against Southampton in 32, but he did play. I anticipate he probably starts all of these games. I really do. And particularly if Villa go out of the Champions League against PSG, I anticipate he plays them all because Villa need, I think, to win their league games to try and get as high up in the league as they can because league position is still important to them. I'm just going to check to see exactly what the Villa starting lineup was against Southampton. I've got it on my phone here. So we had Martinez in net, Matty Cash, Tyrone Mings, Martin, Konsa started. So he started in the Premier League against Villa. So I've put back there. I feel pretty safe that Konsa, safe in saying that Konsa, with all those fixtures in mind, is probably the best Aston Villa defender for minutes. Asensio played. I would suggest he's going to start against Southampton because he probably won't start against PSG. I know he missed 2 penalties in that game, which is just absolutely crazy. He's probably not going to take penalties anymore. But I still think, I don't know about you guys, he is absolutely well and truly passed my eye test since he's been at Aston Villa. And I would probably back him to get good minutes in the double and suggest he's pickable. We saw Rashford start up front against against Southampton. I just think, though, Rashford and Watkins' minutes are going to be so shared and so uncertain that I feel uncomfortable recommending them. Likewise, any of the other attackers, really, I don't think, number one, they're either dangerous enough to consider, and number two, I don't think their minutes are secure enough. Could you maybe say Matty Cash is pickable as well? Potentially you could, but realistically, all of the other defenders I probably wouldn't go for. And even then, I've put Konsa on my pickable list. I think it's just because he's cheap. I put Martinez in the Mayor point or the Mayor section because, well, I don't know about you, but I don't massively trust Aston Villa defensively. I know they won 3-0, kept a clean sheet against Southampton, but it's Southampton. You know, are they going to win and are they going to keep a clean sheet against Newcastle and Man City away? I'm not massively convinced on it. And even, I've got Konsa in the pickable section. Is he even going to score any points for clean sheets? I mean, ultimately, Konsa is going to get you clean sheet points for nothing, isn't he, in reality? So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Villa assets. I know they're a little bit messy, but, it's the reality that we're in at the moment with the Champions League and their expected minutes. And I think you can pick them, but you've got to proceed with caution. Next up, then, the doublers in Crystal Palace. Obviously, well, I guess a disappointing result for them against Man City, but they certainly showed their attacking threat at the start of the game. They were absolutely ruining Man City at the start of that fixture. And I genuinely think there are 5 Crystal Palace assets that you can pick in the game right now. And this is regardless of the outcome in that Man City match, to be honest. Munoz, Mateta, Sarr, Eze and Glasner are all pickable. Top 3, if I had my assistant manager, I would consider using it on Glasner. But my top 3 would probably be Munoz, Sarr, and Mateta. Now, we obviously haven't seen the second fixtures yet in double game week 32, but the reason that I would pick Sarr over Eze, and I've said this all along, is that I think on paper, if they both play 90 minutes every game, I think Eze is a better player and is better in FPL. But I trust Sarr's fitness record more. Eze, over the last couple of years, has been dealing with hamstring issues. I'm not saying he's got one at the moment. I don't think he does. There's no proof of that or anything. But he has done in the past and missed quite a few games as a result. And I think Glasner, well, he'll think of that with his squad selection, with his subs and the times that potentially Eze gets subbed. And also, there is a risk in my mind that Eze gets injured more than Sarr getting injured, if that makes sense. So for security of minutes, I think I'd pick Eze. And there's not a massive amount between it, I don't think, in their dangerousness from an attacking perspective in recent games either. So yeah, I would still say Sarr ranks higher than Eze for me. I'll put Kamada in there, but he's probably, I don't know, just not massive on him, to be fair. I'd probably consider him bad. And then you got Henderson, who you could pick, but in reality, how many clean sheets are Palace getting? And I just think, yeah, he's a decent keeper, but you could pick 3 on the pickable side and be much happier. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the doublers in doublers? Yeah, that makes sense, in Crystal Palace. This is where I might get a bit controversial with things. And please, if you disagree with my thoughts on the Arsenal assets, then let me know in the comments. They obviously double, and they're in the Champions League against Real Madrid. They're 3-0 up on aggregate, so there's every chance that they go through. albeit I'm not saying they will. I think they'll get through. But if there was ever a team to turn around a massive deficit, it's Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, right? So that could happen. Still, regardless of that, this is how I've gone in terms of my view on Arsenal assets. I think Saka is probably worth going for. I do. I think regardless of how the Madrid game goes, he'll get good enough minutes across the double where he's probably pickable. But even if he gets 2 lots of 45 minutes, that's still comparable to a single game week player. And Saka on a single game week is great, right? So I know that probably sounds funky or sounds dodgy given that it's a double game week, but hopefully you get my point. I still think he'll get good enough minutes during the double that he's pickable. That would be my opinion. Let me know in the comments though what you think about Saka. We saw Saliba start, well, he has started against Brentford. The game's going on at the moment, so anything anything could happen because I'm going to probably upload this video while the game's going on. I'm just going to double check that we haven't had any early substitutions or injuries in that game. I'll let my phone load while we talk about the other players. So I think Saliba's pickable purely off the back of the fact he started against Brentford. I don't think he's been subbed. No, we've not seen any early subs or injuries. Let me know in the comments though, or correct me in the comments if you see anything. In terms of the Mare section, I think there's a couple of defenders I chuck in there, in Kivior and Timber, just because I wouldn't be secure on Timber's minutes. In fact, he's been benched against Brentford. Kivior, with Kivior, I think he's probably the lowest quality of the Arsenal defenders in terms of individual player qualities. But I also think with the fact that Gabriel's out and he's been filling in quite nicely at centre-back, just think his place is secure. It's just a case of if his form drops, he could come out of the team. Maybe I should put Kivior in the pickable section. I would say Kivior is probably the most pickable of those like Mare players. And if you needed to be fair, if you couldn't afford Saliba, I'd feel fairly confident going for Kivior. I'd say Kivior is the best replacement, at least, for Saliba if you can't afford him. Marino could be decent. You know, he's probably going to take up some attacking positions when he does play. Trossard seems to be playing quite regularly for Arsenal at the moment. If there was an Arsenal attacker to pick, I would probably suggest going for Trossard, outside of Saka, of course. I'd probably suggest going for Trossard. And that's really where things end for me. We'll just have a look at their fixtures. And I think the key thing for me is, you can see there, they're live. I've literally taken a screenshot 2 minutes into their game so I can get the video out as soon as it finishes. The big question is obviously what's going to happen with Saka. I just think he gets enough minutes in the 2 games. Ipswich Palace, I think he gets enough minutes to where it's justified that you should pick him in double game week 33. That's my opinion on Saka. I think he gets enough minutes where it's justified. Does he start both games? I can't say with any level of surety, but I think he gets enough minutes to justify picking him. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. I just wanted to say something about Cole Palmer as well, because I wanted to talk about and probably pay homage to managers that picked Palmer on their wild card over Saka. I'm really jealous of you, and I wish going back that I'd done this. Yeah, I do, because I should have really thought about... I'm trying to grill myself here. Yeah, maybe I should have thought a little bit deeper about Saka's minute. I'm really jealous of you that have Cole Palmer about to play Ipswich. Yes, he's had a big dip in form recently, but we've obviously seen Saka's on the bench against Brentford, and you can just do Palmer to Saka for game week 33. I just wanted to say, I think if you're on Palmer and you've done so over Saka with that kind of minutes view in mind that Saka probably was going to get benched in these 2 Premier League games, regardless of what happens against Ipswich now, I think you can say you've made the right decision. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that, found it useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like rating on the video. Let me know in the comments, what your thoughts are on the minutes predictions that I've given there. You know, the video it's all about the double game week players, this one, because ultimately, if you're making transfers in FPL, you're probably doing so buying the double game week players this week, right? So that's what I focused on this video. So yeah, if you enjoyed it and want to stick around, see more content from me, you can subscribe to the Goal and Goal channel. Should be just there, right there on your screen. And yeah, I think that's everything. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. Very grateful. And I'll catch you in my next video.